You ever open your chat GPT and you look at the sidebar of all the shit you ask every day?
Sometimes when I ask stupid stuff, I delete it out of the chat. So I don't have a history of my stupid questions.
Well, you probably know this as well as I do. You got so much stuff in your brain sometimes that when you try to recall it, it's not right there. And especially with dosages, you kind of pause for a second. You're like, hold on, let me make sure I don't say the wrong thing.
Yeah,
Some stuff is engraved. If you say it a lot, it stays there. But other things are way back there,
right.
and you're like, I can't remember the last time I talked about this or this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Or sometimes I'm thinking about like five things, and so I say something. I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to say right now. I don't even know what I'm saying.
yeah.
Yes, that.
I have a hard time with like when you're making your videos and you're talking, and
Oh,
your brain's speaking a different language than your mouth is speaking, and
hmm.
so it's not translating well. It's not coming out right.
The one thing I've learned when I'm recording videos is pause, just stop recording a lot. Because the amount of times that I've been recording for like a minute, and then I'll say something wrong, or I'll be like, or I'll just like like I'll stumble, and I'm
Pause.
like, and I've had to record the whole thing over again. So now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just start off the bat and pause it after 5 seconds of me. Like every time I get a point across, stop it and go again.
Well, how you feel? You sound a lot better today. I hopped on your live earlier, and you sounded a lot better.
Oh yeah, a million times better. But like it's like I can feel it sitting up in here, just like a congestion, but there's nothing. Like I don't have like mucus. It's just it feels like
Pressure.
pressure.
And you've been using your Thymosin Alpha 1.
Yeah.
You just keep that on hand.
Yeah, I was actually telling people that on live too, is like of the things to have on hand,
Yeah.
you want to have like something for your immune system that can help your response when you get sick. And then like BPCs, KPVs, things like that. Like those are things that you should always have.
That's a good point. And I should KPV for sure. I think, you probably agree on this too. It's one of the most like versatile applicants. You inject it or you topical or whatever you could stomach, it's got all these different applications that you could use from the different administration routes that, you might as well keep it around.
Yeah. I think when we start, we can actually talk about that. Like a couple things that are like super, super underrated.
Well, we're going now, so go ahead and get into it, man.
Okay. Yeah, so that I always tell people that when we're looking at like underrated peptides, one, the whole bioregulator category, which I know we're going to talk to about at some point, but I think that whole entire category is very underrated when you look at organ functions and different things like that because people don't use them because it's sometimes it's not something that you see or feel a benefit from right away. And the other piece of it too is that people just don't know about them. But for things that are underrated that have such a multi-purpose use, KPV, because you can use that to help with inflammation. So your joint pain, you can use it to help with like some immune modulation. You can use it for gut issues, Crohn's disease, IBS, acne, psoriasis, eczema. So when you
Mm.
think about something that's going to hit like so many different things, that singular compound is going to solve like 6 or 7 issues for a lot of people all at once. And then another one is VIP. Have you tried it?
Oh, not yet. Nope.
Dude, I actually hate when people ask me, like on live, like, what does VIP do? Because I have to take a big, deep breath before I go to list off all of the benefits of VIP.
Mm.
So, VIP is vasoactive intestinal peptide. And what that's going to help with is it can help with inflammation. It's a vasodilator. It can help with cardiovascular function. It can help reduce your blood pressure. It can help with lung function, right? Asthma, things like that. People have better cognitive function or mental clarity when they use it. It can help with gut motility. So it can help fix gut issues that people might have. And I'm probably leaving off a couple of things even. People have gotten better. I mean, in terms of, and the cost of VIP, like if I said it helps 10 different things like that, you'd be like, that thing's expensive as crap.
Yeah.
VIP is very inexpensive for all of the things that it does. So it's kind of like a surprising one, and people use it. And I think that the majority of people that use it end up saying, yeah, I kind of agree that this is like a goated peptide.
Well, this kind of segues into one of my topics I had down here lower was the PE 2228 or the
Mm-hmm.
2228, which is I guess relatively new. It seems to be popping up more and more. And I just had a one of my regular, supporters on all my platforms asked me, if he could send me some free product, which I'm not opposed to, but sharing your address with people. So,
Yeah.
he'd been supporting me for a while, and he sent me the website, and everything looks legit. So I said, sure, man. So he sent me some. I got it sitting over here on the counter, and so I started digging into it a little bit more. It's been popping up the last few weeks, and I can't say I know a whole lot about it, but it seems like it may fall into this category of multifactorial, beneficial type of product. So,
Yeah. And I think a lot of people use PE20. Like I would say that if you were, if Solank wasn't cutting the mustard for you,
yeah,
the primary thing that most people are going to use PE 28 for is going to be like the anxiety and kind of like alleviating some of those issues. But the amount of people, like when people use something like that, the benefits that they get from it are very noticeable. But I think that it's kind of like what I would compare that to is kind of like the progression tier of like, where do I need to start with that? Or could I start with something else and maybe progress to that as I assess like tolerance? Like, and I even think about that from the same perspective with like Semax, is that you can start with Semax because it can typically help, but then you could go into some of the more advanced things that are doing. I mean, you could always use them, right? But why not start with like the lowest common denominator
yep. Yeah.
first and move up from there?
Well, I've had multiple concussions. I was talking about it on live this morning. I've had six concussions, all before the age of 19. And so I knew, at some point I was going to have to get around to the cerebralizing and things like that to see. And it's not one of those things that the peptides are like this sometimes, where it's not something that you take it, you notice a change, or you take it and your blood work changes, or you know what I mean? So it's one of those that you may not see the benefits until you are older, and
Yeah.
something you don't have an early onset of something that you normally might be faced with. So that's something that I might have to run around with too, and this one as well.
And that's a tough thing to explain to people too. I mean, even like if you look at BPC, right? Like obviously people have benefits with BPC and you'll see somebody get surgery and they're like, man, I recovered so quickly. Well, sometimes people do
Yeah,
recover quickly, right? So how do you know if you prevented Alzheimer's for you, even if your mom, your dad, your grandma, and your uncle all have Alzheimer's or dementia? How do you know that you didn't just not get it by chance
yeah,
and that you were never going to get it anyways? But also like, if you don't, and the likelihood or probability points to you should have, could we maybe attribute it to that? And I would say that, like, if you're using something to prevent it and you end up not getting it, it would be better than getting it
yeah.
from not.
Yeah. So that's the TB 500, the BPC 157 conversation. All the time I get asked, I just had this surgery. How long, will it take me to heal up? I'm like, how am I supposed? I can't answer that question exactly, but I can tell you that it should at least reduce your recovery time by 20%. I mean, that seems to be at least um, a decent percentage to put on it, that we can
Yeah.
realistically say on average people, are cleared after 6 weeks when it should take 8 or something like that. So
Yeah. And there's a guy that even he's getting two knee surgeries. He got one done and he was going to compare. And I'm like, even still, yes, you're the same person, but the way that your body responded to one knee surgery might not be the same as the other, or that knee could have. So it's so hard to put in the absence of or with the presence of, would it have changed actually the numbers? But you know kind of like across the board looking at it, like, yeah, you generally people are improving faster by using BPC, so clearly it seems to be doing something.
I think an easier way to track these products like that would be if you have a chronic inflammation of some kind. If you've got tendonitis that's been there, like I've got right now in my knees, if it's been there for 3 months and it's not phasing, it's not going away, no matter what method you change, or you change your movements in the gym, you do more stretching or whatever, and then you apply, and all of a sudden inflammation starts to go down. That's an easier way to gauge this product is doing what I need it to do, as opposed to
Yeah.
how fast do I recover from an injury or a surgery.
Right.
That's hard. That's hard to say.
Yep.
So I wanted to get into, we've been talking a lot about this, and it seems to stay a big conversation with peptides and their increased risk or potential increased risk of cancer. So I wanted to kind of let you take off first. We've been talking about this a lot lately too. And it's all over the place. So I want to get your opinion on it before I tell you what I think.
Yeah. I think what I always tell people is the likelihood is almost none that you're going to like spontaneously combust with cancer after using a peptide.
Yep.
Are there peptides that, and all of it is theoretical, right? Because even like the tesamorelin thing and the increase in IGF-1, we're saying that based off of the way that it works, it would promote the growth, right? So in theory, you should see a very high population of people getting cancer in HIV patients using Agrifta, which is the
Yeah.
pharmaceutical prescribed version of tesamorelin, right? But you don't see that. And so, even still, I feel like that supports the argument that the likelihood is low, considering that you're not even seeing it. And those people are predisposed to having cancer more so than anybody, the HIV patients. And so, I think that at the end of the day, when you really look at like a cancer risk with them, is one, you're weighing your own risk profile, right? Like, I had a guy reach out to me. He's like, dude, my wife passed away recently. I wanted to use tesamorelin, but like, I'm scared of the cancer risk. I said, listen, at the end of the day, if the risk outweighs the benefit for you, no matter how unlikely it might be, then choose to not use it because that will always be safer
Yep.
than not, right? Because if the unknown exists and maybe you could have that issue, then I would say just keep it out, right? But at the end of the day, the likelihood, even with like BPC 157, if you think about the angiogenesis factor of that, the new vessel growth, the promotion of nutrients and blood flow to the cells, it could maybe feed them. You're going to feed them nutrients. And it almost seems like, too, that the concern around cancer and peptides, it now has reached into every single peptide that exists. Anything that promotes you to be healthier in any capacity, we're now saying cancer risk. And it's not so much, but at the end of the day, too, is like, well, if you're feeding your body nutrients and blood and having, I mean, I almost feel like, I don't know if you ever saw this, but do you know, he's Lane Norton. He had
Yep.
made an Instagram post way back in the day saying that if you ate your poop, that you would get some type of benefits because there's a small amount of something in your poop. I don't even remember the details of this, but you'd have to
Mm.
eat like 400 tons of your poop to get an effective amount of that compound. But he made a post saying you would basically be able to do this for your body by eating poop. And it was a joke to talk about how you can skew data to influence the point that you're trying to make. And so, it's almost like even at some point you could say, well, if you get in the ice bath, you're pulling blood into your core. You get out, it allows your blood to flow throughout your body. Well, you just fed cancer cells by supplying them better blood. You almost could tie it to anything at this point, I feel like. And at the end of the day, though, I think that the risks are so low. But in an individual making a decision, if you ever feel like the risks outweigh the benefits you could get, then choose to not do it. Me personally, I feel like the risks are low, so it's not changing my decision for anything I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I think outside of genetic predisposition, I don't think this is happening for anybody really. Just like you said. Now, I think the things to watch out for are obviously going to be inflammation markers, and we can go over all those things. I think that's truly what is creating and driving cancer production is our lifestyle choices and this percentage that we may have on each one of us for a genetic potential for cancer. And so you apply a higher percentage of genetic potential, family history would be a higher percentage than somebody without. And then you apply lifestyle factors that are inflammatory, then your risk is, doubling or quadrupling. Then if you're applying these things, and this is something where, yes, there are peptides we can take to reduce total inflammation. That would be where you would want to start, is drive down all the potential inflammation, change your lifestyle factors, change the way you eat and the things that you do on a daily basis and the the environment you're around or whatever, right? So reduce all these potential toxins and then use the peptides to drive down systemic inflammation, and then you should be in a decent environment to not have to really worry about these things at all. So
Yeah.
even if you have a genetic predisposition, I would think that if you cross off these boxes from being contributors, then you should be at a much lower risk of. And again, like you said, I don't think that higher IGF-1 is creating cancer out of nowhere, because this would be an issue in the bodybuilding population as well as the HIV population. And you mentioned the tesamorelin studies. Well, there was also serostim, which were probably driving these IGF-1 levels even higher. And this
Hmm.
isn't the case for them either. So,
And I'm
and so moral of the story is get your cancer screenings done, track your inflammation, make the lifestyle changes that you need to first if this is a concern for you, and take products like KPV. If you need to lose weight, Retatrutide, I'll get all this information down and under control before you consider the use of anything that might even remotely increase your risk.
Yeah. And there's two things that I remembered. There's a guy that followed me on TikTok, and he ran 8 weeks or 12 weeks of BPC while he had cancer, and nothing changed. They didn't see that it was growing, it wasn't spreading, nothing was changing in terms of any of the stuff that they were looking at with him. So that's a very anecdotal, one person. It doesn't really tell us anything, but you would expect if it was a super high risk that it would have grown and spread at a crazy rate, and he was fine. The
Yeah.
other piece of it too is that like the lifestyle piece of it, they're now publishing all this stuff about like Ozempic or the GLPs and how they're helping, lower cancer rates. Well, is obesity
Yes.
and the sugar and the bad food and all the other stuff that and that's another thing too, is that people, they don't talk about that enough. Where if you're sleeping on a bed that has like microplastics and you're drinking out of plastic water bottles and you're ingesting microplastics, you'll do that every single day of your life, right?
Not
You'll eat
question.
bad food, you'll eat M&Ms and M's and cookies and donuts, but then you'll turn around and say, I won't take tesamorelin to reduce my visceral fat, make my body healthier, give myself these benefits because I'm scared of that it will promote cancer. But you do so many other things in your day that are more promoting of cancer than any of the peptides, in my opinion.
And this is something I talked about in the video the other day that we won't mention why I posted the video, but essentially why are people not talking about the things that are actually causing the cancer? And we're just talking about the scares and the potential risk of peptides causing cancer or accelerating cancer, but we're not actually digging into what's creating it to begin with. And it's just like you said, it's all these lifestyle factors. And we more now than ever, people work from home. The activity level is lower than it's ever been. Hormones are worse than it's ever been. We have estrogen dominance. We have low testosterone in men. So we've created an environment culturally that is um, perfect soil for cancer to grow in. And we're putting all this focus, at least some people are putting all this focus on the peptide world related to cancer. And I'm like, you're missing the biggest, the giant piece to the puzzle.
Yeah. And there's compounds that are significantly more dangerous that we have no problem giving people that are prescriptions. And, there was a couple that both took this. I don't even remember what the compound was. They both are like in wheelchairs now. And it was something that like can happen when you take it. It's a prescription medication. I don't remember what it was, but they were like, and all these people in the comments are like, that happened to my dad, that happened to my brother, my cousin. I know somebody this happened to. And like, we don't talk about those enough where there's things, I mean, your Adderalls, you could say are way more detrimental to your health long term than using something like a Semax
Yep.
would be. And so I think there's so many things out there that are so much riskier. I mean, everybody probably has done something at some point in their life that promoted poor health, right? In college, you're out drinking or you're young and you get to 21 and you go out and you drink till you black out. Like those things are not good for your health. I think people try to correct that over time and maybe change their lifestyle away from the things that they used to do. But yeah, there's so many more things that create such bad issues for you long term in comparison to these that it's like it's just hard to like talk about one without talking about the other. Uh,
We- We've normalized babying these bad lifestyle choices. So it's just the norm now that you can go put down 24, beers on a weekend with your buddies, and that's completely okay. Or you can get McDonald's drive-through every single day for the last 15 years, and that's not crazy. But
yeah,
to you and I, that's absolutely absurd. So
yeah. And I was actually helping somebody last night on live. They were like, I eat out a lot. So like but I'm like, you can still make healthy choices. Like it doesn't matter if you go to McDonald's, you can substitute some. I mean, preferably you're not always going to McDonald's for every meal, right? But you can substitute in like a healthier option that's way less in terms of saturated fats and way less in all of the bad things that you can get, and make some of those like substitutions and still be able to live a lifestyle that's conducive to like me and you having a friendship and going out on the weekends and doing something together and not sacrificing your ability to have like social relationships and stuff like that, but still be able to live a lifestyle that promotes your health and longevity over the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, so real quick, before we move on from the cancer thing, I've got some biomarkers that anybody who's watching can check if they want to. If this is a concern for you, or if you're holding off on using a certain peptide because of these potential risks. Um, so real quick, we've got AFP, which is potential liver. We've got CEA, which is potential colorectal, pancreatic, gastric, um, breast, lung, CA 19-9, pancreatic, CA 15-3, breast cancer, CA 125, ovarian cancer, PSA, we know as man prostate, um, calcitonin, thyroglobulin, HCG, LDH, non-specific, but lymphoma related usually, um, and then alk phos for potential bone. So those are the main ones, that you can dig into that are, I would say, cancer specific potential markers. And then we have the obvious, like the high sensitivity C-reactive protein, your LDL particle size, which would be the ApoB, vitamin D levels, homocysteine, insulin, C-peptide, etc.
And the one thing I'll add on to that too is if you're really concerned and you really want to get a good look at yourself, go get the gallery screening.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? That's the one that gives you, that one's like, it will give you like your predisposition to, I don't, maybe 100 and some cancers or something. I don't remember all the details of it, but it's a cancer specific screening that will tell you based off of what we've just measured in your lab work, you are somewhat likely to get like prostate cancer. You're not very likely to get lung cancer and things like that. And so it will look at it and basically give you a picture of like, do I have risks towards certain types of cancers and how high would my risk be based off of that? But it's GALLERI is how it's spelled. And it is like $1,000, I think. And I think it's become a little bit easier to get because when it first came out, people were trying to get it done, but you couldn't. But getting a screening like that done, they at least say another one, lipoprotein A, right? Obviously,
Yep.
this isn't going to be your
That's exactly what I
cancer
was going to say.
necessarily, but like you have markers that tell you my LPA is like so low, and I'm like, that's always something that you don't know though. Am I going to one day just keel over from a heart attack?
Yep.
And so you look at that and you're like, okay, my risk profile is very low genetically, and
Mhm.
so I don't want to go crazy and do stuff that's going to promote poor cardiovascular health. But at least I know that the likelihood of me having issues is significantly lower. Where somebody else, I had a lady who was very high. It's like now you got to go make sure that everything else stays in check because that you are genetically predisposed to these issues.
Yeah, so I got mine pulled last year, and to no surprise, mine was like 250. So big red flag, freaked me out a little bit. I know it doesn't change a whole lot, even with the um, using something like niacin could potentially alter the number, drive the number down, but it didn't seem to improve the outcomes of cardiac events. So now, obviously, the LDL and the ApoB becomes that much more important for me to pay attention to. And so my
Yeah.
mitigation, how serious I take my mitigation is even more important because not that my diet necessarily is ever going to increase those things because it's a clean diet, but anabolic usage and driving up androgens, testosterone, is obviously going to alter the way my body handles cholesterols, and this ApoB is going to start to climb up and become a problem. So
Yeah.
interesting though, I did do an experiment with niacin and to see the outcomes, and I think it was the time that I was 6 weeks between labs. So I usually do like every 4 or 5, and I went 6 on this one. And my LP little a dropped by 100, but my ApoB went up by 10. Now, I don't think the
Hmm.
ApoB was up by 10 as a result of the niacin, obviously, but more so just the fact that I was mid off season push, androgens are high, and it's getting harder to keep those things under control. Um,
Yeah.
and again, I have to stay on ezetimibe basically year round to manage this, to keep my risk as low as I can.
Lower.
And I've even combined it with bempedoic acid, which is a pro-drug to assist a little bit, give me some added benefit to that ezetimibe. Not everyone can do the bempedoic acid without some side effects, but it's working well for me, and it's been able to allow me to avoid statins, that I don't want to use. I obviously want to be able to bodybuild and push the limits of my, physical capabilities,
Hmm.
but not at the cost of my lifespan. So
Right.
There's certain things we
Yeah.
just have to do. And I'm glad that's not an issue for you because it is kind of a weird little paranoia that stays in your head all the time. Where when I get my blood work done and everything comes back, the only thing that I'm super paranoid about is my ApoB. Like when I'm waiting on it to show up because I'm stressed about it. Because I feel
Yeah.
like when I see a certain number of my ApoB, now for other people, under 90 would probably be just fine. Like for you, under 90 would probably be just fine. With a higher risk like I am with the high LP little a, I like to keep mine under 70. So when I start to see that thing go up over 70, I start to get a little bit paranoid. And to me, that would signal, hey, it's time to abort this push phase. So,
Right.
but I wanted to
My LPA
segue.
says less than 8.4.
That's crazy.
I was, oh, thank you.
Yeah. And it's weird how, it doesn't change a whole lot. It's not something you can improve really. You can only manage the ApoB from there.
Yeah.
Now, there's other factors that go into CBD, like blood sugar, running high A1C, blood pressure. So obvious other things that we want to manage and pay attention to alongside it.
Right.
We don't just want to, let's say, take a statin to keep cholesterol low, but we're running like a 8 or 9 A1C. We don't want to be doing that either. So kind of all works together to create the environment that would sustain a long life.
Right.
I wanted to segue from the IGF-1 conversation into bioglutide and how you feel like it's going to have an impact, who it may have an impact on, if anybody, and what that looks like. Because if you're creating a product with IGF-1 in the product, that means that you, the creator, the pharmaceutical company, doesn't seem to be too concerned about IGF-1 production as a potential cancer risk. I know we have to cite everything out. We need to due diligence on the study, which will be coming up
Mhm.
soon. Have they started? They haven't started human trials yet, have they?
I think in this spring they'll have some data out at
Okay.
some point. They're running the trials right now. I also hate that I ever even made a video about it because the amount of people that are commenting on it that say it's oral, it'll never work. And I'm like, okay, let's pause for a second. Just because it's an oral method of administration doesn't mean it does not work,
Yeah.
considering the fact that you take Tylenol orally. It's a
Mhm.
small molecule. And if they're showing that results are happening using an oral method of administration, how do you then turn around and say there's no possible way it will work? Like you can't say that because the data is being studied with it being used that way. But I do think that if you actually compare it to retatrutide, I looked at the graph of retatrutide, 1% maybe more or so at that like 12 or 13 week point than retatrutide is in terms of effectiveness in terms of weight loss.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit more effective, but by a small amount. But I think that the thing that doesn't get isolated out of the retatrutide studies is they don't show this is the exact percentage of body fat versus muscle or lean tissue that was lost. And so, could we see it have been more preserving to muscle mass? And I think that people do raise good concerns about how easy it's going to be to get it to be approved and some of these other factors. But I would say that in terms of an application for it, you can use it for people. I mean, I think the bodybuilding world or the people who are more into their fitness and their body composition may love this and eat this up because they may be able to preserve or have more lean muscle tissue when they're losing weight. But I think just in general, if it is successful and it can work, the ability to preserve lean tissue, because the amount of people that you've seen a million times, like we've talked about this, some that lose 100 pounds and then they say, man, I don't look how I wanted to because I lost everything. I didn't just lose fat. I lost my muscle. I lost everything on my body. And now I'm just in this weird, like skinny flab. And now I need to build muscle. Like, how can I do that? So if you can mitigate that along the way, and that's why I always say there's never a right point to wait for to use a secretagogue when you're losing weight. Yeah, you might gain temporarily, but you're still in the process of losing. And so it's like to be able to mitigate that muscle loss as you're in the process of losing, I think is a huge win. If it can be successful, there could be risks, but I think it's interesting. And one that is apparently in the works too is one that has an androgen receptor component to it,
Uh,
apparently.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that these will probably be used more outside of, hey, you're 400 pounds, let me prescribe this to you so you can lose some weight and get healthier. It's probably going to be more applicable to a different type of crowd. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we're just trying to turn people into superhumans, but it's interesting to see how they try to adapt them to address issues that we see with other compounds. Ozempic, you lost all your muscle, right? Well, now what can we do? Let's change it up a little bit, right? Maybe not be so suppressive in the appetite. Let's crank up your ability to burn fat. Well, let's just also add in a component to help prevent muscle loss, right? So
Yeah.
they're going to continue to adapt these things over time to make them be more effective to mitigate issues that we see.
I don't think Bioglutide is going to be as powerful of a change in the weight loss community as we saw going from even from semaglutide to tirzepatide and tirzepatide to retatrutide. I don't think it's going to be that big of a jump. I think we already have ways to mitigate muscle loss. The issue here is that maybe a lot of these physicians prescribing these products don't know how to help you mitigate muscle loss, and so we run into issues there. Whereas us in the peptide biohacking community, and especially the bodybuilding community, we have things in place. So tracking and mitigating or managing hormones properly, making sure you have adequate testosterone levels, male or female, would be one of those factors. Adding in something like tesamorelin or CJC, apomorelin, to increase the IGF-1. So we're already creating the bioglutide the way that it would be, presented to us as a country or as an economy. We're already basically creating that with Reta and these other compounds together.
Yep.
So if you want to go another step with the androgen receptor, then I suppose we could throw in L-carnitine, and now we've got all the boxes checked. So I don't think it's going to make as big of a splash, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So
Yeah.
it could help. It could help a certain subgroup of people, but I think that it will be overhyped. I don't think it's going to do what retatrutide is doing to the community of our country. So
Yeah. I think the one other benefit though, like why do they try to develop an oral GLP, right? Like why does Rybelsus have a place? There are people who don't use these things because they don't want to poke themselves. And so that is a benefit to it. It's more tedious because you would probably have to, I think if they take it daily, but like you're taking it and giving it for people now that don't want to use it through other means. And so you just increase, and so what you're seeing is something that's looking like it's going to be very effective, but you don't have to use a shot. And some people that's going to be an appeal to them.
well, I wondered why they did that as well, because I thought to myself, does it have something to do with the IGF-1? And then I thought, no, Increlex, which is real IGF-1, is an injectable. So I don't know why we are going this route, if it is just to appeal to the masses. But these are the same companies that have created tirzepatide and retatrutide. So why are those not options in those products? I know there's what'd you say, Rybelsus? Is that what it's called? Um,
Yeah. And
the oral.
it's an effectiveness thing too. I mean, if you look at a per milligram, it's more effective to do 2.5 milligrams of, tirzepatide versus something orally where you're 5-amino 1-MQ is a pretty good example too, because people might inject 1 milligram of that, but they might ingest 100 to 150 milligrams. So I
Yeah.
think that's part of it too. And I'm sure there's a cost component that goes into that too when they formulate it. Of course, you have less of the compound in a per milligram amount. So that could be a part of it too, is of why and I think it's just harder, the development process that goes into it, to have it not break down in the gut, to have it processed properly, released properly. So much easier to do in an injection.
It is. So I don't really see that where they go from here. I don't think
Yeah.
that there's a what other avenues do you improve weight loss when you have a 26% rate of loss over what, 48 weeks? Is that what it was? How do you Where do you go from there that's better? I think past that would be, I don't know. I think it would be flirting with some problems. I think retatrutide is just about as good as you're going to get and ever need. And I hate to see the world next year when it becomes available, but only through, your physician, and um, those people don't have access or don't know that they have access to it through cheaper routes.
Yeah. And I don't know what the next step is or what's better, but there's like a snippet with the CEO of Eli Lilly, and he says, "You think this stuff's cool?
I know.
You've seen it." He's like, "We got 10 more things in the pipeline you don't even know about. Wait
I'm
till you
like,
see those.
what the hell could you be working on? So unless you're digging into ways to cure cancer, unless you're digging into ways to effectively stop Alzheimer, like we've got these peptides available that we know have a lot of anecdotal efficacy to them, and we're still going down whatever route of weight loss. When I think we've pretty much covered that pretty well. So I don't know where they would be going with these next 10, 20 products that they've got in the pipeline. So
Profit. I
yeah.
mean, those are the most profitable things you can produce is weight loss compounds. So that's probably the only reason that those get so much energy and effort put into them is because they're the most profitable things they can continue to produce.
I saw a video on what's his name, Peter Attia, one of his
Yeah.
podcasts, with a, I guess he's a cardiovascular heart, cholesterol specialist, older guy. I can't remember his name, but this was one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. And he basically in this podcast talked about how combining three medications to completely reverse insulin resistance. And I don't remember how high the A1C was in these people, but I think it was plus 10. So combining something like any GLP-1 of choice, pioglitazone, which is an old diabetic medication that improves insulin sensitivity in the muscle, and that's the only one that we know that does that. But it was, I think the studies were, they were obviously discontinued because pioglitazone is on the market, but it was discontinued or seen as too high of a risk for those who already had cardiovascular disease or events because it increased their body weight by, I don't know, what was it, 2.5 kilograms over a year or something like that. So they had a slight water increase, and the pioglitazone is changing the body composition where it was reducing visceral fat and restoring it in the subcutaneous fat. So it's basically a fat exchange into your outer layer, right? Well, then you combine that with something like retatrutide, and that's no longer an issue. The water retention is not an issue, and the fat storage is not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third drug was empagliflozin or Jardiance. So this was reversing, basically improving kidney function, and it's an SGLT2 inhibitor. So basically, when you consume food, glucose and sodium takes its first pass through the liver or through the kidneys and is to be excreted out. And this enzyme brings it back into circulation to be stored for later. So when you take an SGLT2 inhibitor, your body can release after that first pass that excess sodium and glucose. So normally when you have that second spike post meal, that's that reabsorption of glucose the second time. So those three combined, able to drop an A1C of 10 plus to under 6. And it's kind of like these are not practices that you see anybody using, even though
Right.
we have an extremely effective method. And especially when you go combine either tirzepatide or retatrutide to the mix now, you have what were the what was the percentage? 2 to 2.5 A1C drop just from one of those two compounds. So I think we both agree, and everyone seems to agree that knows anything about it. Retatrutide is revolutionary, but
Yeah.
I just don't know where else you would go from there. But maybe they've got something up their sleeve.
We'll see in 25 years, probably.
I know they want to release them. It's like watching a series of a movie that you know is going to have three or something like that, and they just keep you hanging on for the next one, and they stall it, and they make you they release it 2 years later, even though it's done filming already, and it's just to
Yeah.
keep you on your toes and ready for that next thing. Like where can I funnel my money next? You know.
Yeah.
Well, this was pretty good. It was a little bit shorter. I know you're still trying to recover, so I'm gonna let you get off of here. But I really did want to talk about these topics with you. I mostly wanted to cover all the cancer stuff, and I think we did that plus a little bit extra. So we'll try again next week. Hopefully, neither one of
Next
us
week.
is sick.
Yeah.
I felt something this morning. I thought I had a little head cold this morning. So
Dude, everybody's got something right now. Like it's when you're in one place and everybody follows you and you're in your live, like, yeah, everybody I know sick, you're like, okay, the whole country's got it right now. I get
Yeah,
that.
and, Whitley, she does the IVs, the mobile IVs, and so right now it's just like COVID left and right, and stomach bug over here, and head colds over here. So it's one
Yeah.
thing after another. But yeah,
Yeah.
man. I hope you have a good day. I'll chat with you
You
later.
too, brother.
All
Sounds
right,
good.
we'll see you.
All right. We'll see you.